Hey, Sean, I've finally added a HIVE light to my growing family of lights, and I did so by selling an Aputure 120D that I had, which had broken, and after I went through the warranty process of getting fixed, I sold it and through Adorama, ended up with a HIVE 200CX. It's the Hornet, and it's awesome, and I wanted to quickly walk through my first impressions. Unfortunately, I acquired a lot of this gear right as the world of production stopped spinning. And so I have some limitations on some of the real world tests I can do, but looking at the theoretical advantages and disadvantages, I wanted to quickly walk through my first impressions of the light, where it's going to excel and where it may struggle a little bit compared to the Aputure. And then I wanted to ask you, before I dive in and do the deeper analysis of the light, what situations do you want me to put it through? What questions do you have comparing the two? I'm going to compare it to my Aputure 300D, which I still have, 300D Mark II, and the HIVE 200CX, and I may throw in my Quasar just for fun to see how it does in some of these tests as well as a key light and maybe some other things with product lighting. So right out of the gate, my first impressions are I love that the light isn't broken, which I've owned two Aputure lights and both of them have broken pretty soon after getting them, in spite of me taking very good care of my gear. And the HIVE light is not only completely covered by warranty and functional, but I confirm that their cables are covered under the warranty, and on the Aputure side, the cables aren't covered under warranty, and that's what broke on both of my lights independently, was these cables. So number one, it's built really well. It's working. It's built in California, which is a plus for me, and it's a high quality, really, really good light. And that's the big edge, is that it is an omni-colored light, which means it can be any color, and it's all controlled by a phone app, which makes it really, really easy to come in and pick different colors that you want the light to be, and any color you imagine, anything you possibly want. And it can also do different effects. Cop car, lightning, fire. If I wanted to seem like I was in a club, I gotcha. Okay, that's enough. And with a click, I can click daylight, sunrise, golden hours, winter shades, summer direct light, magic hour, moonlight. There's a bunch of different presets in here, which are all very, very well done. And so it's very easy to control. It's very quick. And compared to the Aputure remote, which was convenient, it's faster because rather than like have to hold it and fade it all the way up, I can just adjust the output to 100% and it updates as soon as you let go. So it's really easy to dial in where you want that brightness to be. Now, the reason I like the any color, the omni color, is because it's flexible. And for me, I'm shooting all over the place. I'm shooting in different offices and conference rooms and studios and all over the place, where sometimes I'm trying to match tungsten, sometimes I'm trying to match fluorescent, sometimes I have full control to light from absolute darkness. And so that's a situation where the Aputure can thrive because you are bringing all of your own light to it. But where the Aputure struggled was if I had a bunch of fluorescent light and only two Aputures, I have to kill everything else because the Aputures can't match any of that ambient light. And so where the HIVE really, really thrives is its ability to go into any circumstance and match more of the lighting that's around. And that is really, really convenient for me. So if you're only shooting interviews in a controlled space where you have all the light, Aputures are probably fine. But for me, being on the fly, I'm excited to be able to use this to adapt to the surroundings at all compared to not at all. So in my initial tests of the light, I found only two drawbacks. Number one, it's not as bright for the price. And for me, that's fine. It's still very, very bright. And I have it going here through the Aputure lantern, which I've used the adapter that HIVE sells to be able to connect Bowens mount adapters to it. So I have the Bowens mount lantern mounted on the HIVE, and it's a wonderful soft light. It's fantastic. It's not quite as bright as the 120D, but it's adaptable. And for me, that trade-off was easy to make. Seldom am I trying to, with the Aputures, if you're trying to balance against sunlight where you'd need to be that bright, it's probably not the perfect temperature anyway. And so I find that this is a lot more flexible and a lot easier to use when I'm trying to match things rather than being just a little bit brighter. And don't get me wrong, this thing is bright. Now, the only other drawback that I found, number two, is there is fan noise, which I was surprised by. When you turn it on, there is a fan noise. And I reached out to HIVE, who have been fantastic. Jonathan at HIVE is their CEO, and he responds to the Instagram messages. And he's been very quick to answer all of my questions, and that level of support is rare for, I think, any company, and so I'm very grateful for that, but especially by comparison to Aputure, which was an absolute disaster to work with when both of my lights broke. The fan noise in the CX series is slightly higher than the fan noise in the C series because one of the concessions that they made to bring the price down but keep the brightness was they took out the throttle mechanism, which controls if you dim the light, the fan will dim with it. And so I turned it on. I'm like, man, it's just a little noisy. But in my tests, in spite of it being a noisy fan that I can hear out of my ear and it's only this far from the microphone, it's probably 6 feet away from the microphone, I can't find any perceptible difference in audio with the light on or off. So as a test, I'm using the Deity VMic D3 Pro, which is a fantastic little microphone. It's about 6 feet away from the lantern. And this is the fan on, the light is on. This is with the fan off, and obviously the light is off, but the difference in audio isn't really noticeable to me as I was comparing with a couple other videos that I've made recently, but here with no audio whatsoever. So for me, I was worried about it, but it turns out it does not really affect things that much. And in spite of having a fan, it's not warm, it's not putting off heat, the room has not gotten warm or anything like that. So my next step is to put this thing through some paces, test it against different ambient light sources, against different sources, and see how this thing fares, how it does with the brightness, how it does with different modifiers on it, and really see how it's going to thrive when the world of production starts spinning again. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or any suggestions on how to make sure that I do these tests fairly as I go into the more detailed review phase, please throw them in the comments and I'll make sure that I get to them and make sure that I include that in the tests when I do them in the next couple of weeks here. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.